Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I will be demonstrating how to crochet the Sleepy Blocks Blankie, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Please go to the link in the description. There you'll find both right and left-handed video tutorials, as well as links to all the supplies you need, and any other tutorials that I'll reference here today. Now, as you can see here, this is the finished Sleepy Blocks Blankie. It features a very tight stitch pattern. Let me stick my hand underneath here. You can see it is very dense. It's also very squishy, and it's made with Red Heart Dreamy stripes, as well as a Clover 7mm hook. Let's go ahead and get started with this pretty stitch pattern. The Sleepy Blocks Blankie begins with a chain of 89, and that is for a 30-inch by 31-inch blanket. For a larger size, you can start with a multiple of 4 plus 1 for the turning chain, or for that matter, for a smaller size. You could also use the long chain method to begin this pattern. For this sample, I am going to start with a chain of 21, which is a multiple of 4 plus 1. After you've chained your chain to begin, we're going to skip the chain closest to the hook and single crochet in the very next chain. I like to work into the back hump of the chain, but that's just personal preference. If you like to go under the top 2 loops, then you can absolutely do it that way too. After you've made that single crochet, then we're going to half double crochet in the next 2 chains. So there's 1, and then 2, and then chain 2, 1, 2, and skip 2 chains, 1, 2. From there, we're going to begin our repeat, which is half double crochet in the next 2 chains here. Let's see, there's 1, and there's 2. Then we chain 2, 1, 2, and skip 2. So we're going to keep doing that all the way across until just 3 chains remain. So skip those 2, half double crochet here in the next 2. And of course, you'll have a lot more repeats if you're making a full-size blanket here than this little swatch. But if you're just learning the stitch pattern, it can be a lot of fun to make a little swatch too. You could even use it as a washcloth later. Let's see here, or maybe a little doll blanket or something. If you've got a little one who is into that. Let's see here. We're almost there, since I've got my little swatch here. Let's see. So if I chain 2 and skip 2 here, that means there are just 3 chains left. So it'll look like there's 5 left, but remember you've skipped those 2 here when you get to the end. So with just 3 chains left, we're going to half double crochet in the first 2 of those. So there's 1, and there's 2. And then finally, we're going to finish off with a single crochet in the very last chain. And that's the end of row 1. If you have made the size as listed in the instructions where you started with 89 chains, then you should have 88 stitches at the end of row 1, including those chains. So if you count each of those chains as a stitch, then you'll have 88 stitches at the end. So let's go ahead and begin row 2. Okay, so to begin row 2, we're going to go ahead and turn and chain 1, or chain 1 and turn, however you like to do it. Then we're going to single crochet in the very first stitch. So right in that last single crochet we made. Then we're going to chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, and then we're going to half double crochet in the next 2 skipped stitches, or excuse me, skipped chains in this case, of the row below. So that means we chain 2, we skip these 2 stitches. I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to come down here to this chain we skipped, the first one of these 2, and half double crochet in each of them. So I go into this first one, and when I do this, I want to make sure to enclose that chain 2 above. So that just means work right over it, like so. There we are, pull that on through for half double crochet, yarn over, and do the same thing in the second skipped chain. Get in there, make sure that chain 2 is on top of the hook so it can be enclosed right in the stitch, like so, and then finish that off. And then that is our repeat. We chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, and half double crochet in each of the skipped 2 chains below. Again, just make sure you enclose that chain 2. You don't want it hanging out on the back of your work. It should be inside those stitches. This is part of what helps create the squish for this pattern and also helps with the density. And since this is designed as a blankie, it makes it a little bit tighter with less holes, which some people do worry about quite a bit with babies. There we go. Working to the chain is never my favorite part, but it's not too bad. And after this, we won't have to be working into chains anymore. Okay, I'm almost at the end here. I've got one more chain to work into. Let's get that hook in there. There we are. And then after I've made that last half double crochet there should be 3 stitches left here at the end. Those 2 half double crochets and the single crochet. So to finish up this row, we're just going to go ahead and chain 2, skip those 2 half double crochets, and put a single crochet right in the top of the other single crochet there at the end. And that is it for row 2. Again, you should have the same number of stitches as you began with. So if you changed your stitch count, you want to make sure that including those chains, you have the same number of stitches in every row. Now we're ready for row 3. Okay, so row 3, again, we turn and chain 1, and then single crochet right back in that first stitch. Then we've got this chain 2 space right here. What we're going to do, after I pull up a little bit more yarn here, is we're going to half double crochet in each of the 2 skipped stitches down here, enclosing this chain 2. So we'll yarn over, come down to this first half double crochet waiting for me there, stitch right into there, and again, right in the top of that skipped half double crochet. Again, I have enclosed that chain 2 space. I don't want it hanging out on the back. I don't want to work in front of it or behind it. I want it squished right into that stitch. Then our repeat is the same, chain 2, skip the next 2, half double crochet in the next 2 skipped stitches. So that is it for row 3. Of course, when we get to the end, we'll need to cap it all off with a single crochet. But at this point, since we're not working into chains anymore, these stitches tend to go pretty quickly anyway. So I'll continue working across for row 3 here till I get to the end. Okay, so here I am at the end. I've got my chain 2, I skip 2, and I'm left with a chain 2 space and a single crochet. So what I'm going to do is half double crochet, of course, in those last 2 skipped stitches here. 1 and then 2, and then finish it all off with a single crochet right in the last stitch. Like so. Pretty darn easy, and that's it for row 3. Now we're ready for row 4. Okay, row 4, again, we chain 1 and turn, and then we are going to single crochet in the first stitch, and then we chain 2, skip those first 2 half double crochets, and as you might have guessed, half double crochet in the 2 skipped ones below. Again, every time you make these half double crochets and skipped ones, just make sure that you're enclosing that chain 2 space. But otherwise, I think you've got the idea. We half double crochet in these 2 stitches, pull up some more yarn when you need it. And you may notice, I'll go ahead and mention here, I'm pulling from the outside of the ball with this yarn. Because this yarn, Dreamy Stripes, has a lot of halo, I find that pulling from the outside works best. If you look at the end, you can see it's not necessarily meant to be a center pull skein. You could pull it from the center, but with all this halo, I just feel like it would tangle a little bit pulling from there. So I like to pull it from the outside. Otherwise, I chain 2, skip 2, and just keep working my way across for this stitch pattern. There we go. All the way to the end, where of course we will wind up with a single crochet in that very last stitch. So you can see, hopefully at this point, how easy this stitch pattern is to memorize, because from here on out, it's just going to be a repeat of these last 2 rows. We just had to do those first 2 rows to kind of set it up with the chains there, but really repeating rows 3 and 4 here, these last 2 rows, are the way to go. And you can see, you can read your pattern. If you've got here solid stitches at the end, then that means we must end with chain 2, skip these 2, and single crochet in the last one, like so. So without even looking at our pattern, now that we know how these stitches go, pull up a little bit more yarn here again. There we go. We know we chain 1, turn, single crochet in the next, and because we've got a chain 2 staring at us, that means we half double crochet in each of those 2 stitches below, enclosing that chain 2 space. And that is essentially it. When you are making this pattern, as instructed, you keep working to row 98. So that's a whole bunch of repeats of rows 3 and 4. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this one, and then I'll show you how I finish off the pattern. Okay, so when you've finished your row 3 and 4 repeats, then we're going to move to row 99 to sort of cap it all off and get rid of these chain 2 spaces. So we're going to chain 2, turn here, and again, work a single crochet in the first stitch, and then we've got a chain 2 space here. So I'm going to go ahead and half double crochet in each of the stitches below, just as we were doing before. And then, rather than chain 2, skip 2, I'm going to single crochet in the top of each of these half double crochets. So if for whatever reasons you finished on a row 3 repeat rather than a row 4 repeat, you would just single crochet in each of those first 2 stitches and then be moving to the chain 2 space that you crochet over with half double crochets. So whichever row you end on, you should be able to extrapolate here how you finish that off. We just want to make sure not to chain 2, skip 2, but rather to single crochet into the top of those half double crochets for this row. So I will see you when we get to the end of row 99. Okay, so when you get to the end of row 99 here, you've got your single crochets and your half double crochets, and closing those chain 2s, and you want to finish it up again, of course, with a single crochet right in that last stitch. And from there, we can go to the edging. And this is the edging I used, but you can use, of course, whichever edging you prefer. Now, to finish off mine, rather than turning back this way, I decided to go ahead and keep going this side. So I'm going to chain 1 and just turn 90 degrees to work right along the side here. What I like to do is single crochet in the side of one row, then chain 1, and sort of skip that section there. So just kind of eyeball it and just work evenly along the side. So single crochet, chain 1, then I'll jump down here to this same section where I'm working into the side. I have videos about working into the edge. I always say it's a little bit science, it's a little bit art. The main thing is you just want to make sure it works really evenly, that it's not puckering, that it's not gathering, that it's not ruffling from too many stitches. Like I say, if you put too many stitches along the sides, you'll have sort of a ruffle, it'll spread out. If you work too few, it'll be puckering and gathering. So just kind of play with it a little bit and find the way that works best for you. For me, I found that this worked really well with this pattern. When you get to the other end here, what you'll want to do is chain 1 and then turn 90 degrees again and single crochet right along the foundation chain. Now, this is where I like having worked into that bottom hump rather than under the top 2 loops, because now I've got these top 2 loops to work my edging into, and I find that there's a lot less pulling. Sometimes when you work an edging into that bottom of that foundation chain, there can be a big gap there, but by working into that bottom hump, I find that that gap is more often than not much more subtle, if not eliminated altogether. So we just continue to single crochet evenly right along the foundation chain here. We can go ahead and put 1 stitch in each of these because we know that's perfectly spaced until we get to the end of the foundation chain here. Okay, and then when you've reached this end of the foundation chain there, we just chain 1 again, and then we can work as evenly along this second side here. Again, I like to do a single crochet, chain 1, jump down here, sort of the same section of the side of the stitch that I've been working in before. I just find that this chain 1, skip a little bit here, gives a little bit better finished edge for this particular pattern. Let's see here. Because these stitches are pulled down and sort of, I don't want to say shrunk, but because they're worked down into the row below, they're a little bit shorter. And I find without the chain 1, skip a little bit, that it tends to ruffle a little bit with too many stitches. So we get back up here to the top. We've got that last row, row 99 we did. So finally, we'll go ahead, chain 1 and turn and single crochet in each stitch of row 99 to finish it all off. So I'll just continue single crocheting here right around. Okay, and so when you've worked your way all the way around, you can chain 1, break your yarn, and go ahead and either use the seamless join, which I've linked at the link in the description, or use a slip stitch to finish off to that first stitch there, that very first stitch you made when you start working along the side, however you like to do it. But otherwise, that's how you crochet the Sleepy Blocks Blankie. I hope this video has answered all your questions about the Sleepy Blocks Blankie. If it hasn't, please be sure to let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Here you can see the Sleepy Blocks Blankie finished again. This one was in the Sweet Dreams colorway, but any of the colorways of Dreamy Stripes are really pretty, and I hope you'll check it out. I also wanted to show you here's another look at that chain 1, skip 1, sort of skip 1 section finished edge that I think works really well for this blanket, as you can see here on the full-sized one. So thank you so much again for watching. Again, please go to the link in the description for both right and left-handed videos, as well as a link to the written pattern and all the supplies you need. Don't forget to subscribe to the Moogly channel. It really helps us out. Thanks so much, everybody.